Warning.
What up, what up, what up? Y'all, this is Equally Not, and we are here on another Monday night bringing y'all some great talk. I am your host, DL Collins, along with my co-host D Mac.
Yo, yo.
Want to give a special shout out to 7 Mile Radio for always giving us this power hour to bring y'all the hottest threesome in the nighttime. We get y'all to talk that. Yeah, we get y'all to talk. I want to just say, I'm a little off today. This weekend, it was my birthday. My birthday was on the 23rd, which was on Thursday, so I celebrated Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Well,
As
nope,
you
not
should.
Saturday. I did not celebrate Saturday because I had two events. However, all around that, I celebrated. And then on top of that, Mackenzie Stag weekend always fall on the same weekend as my birthday. So I cut up with my Stag family. I cut up with my friends and family. I had a really good time. I'm 46. Celebrate life. That's what I say. Every year because I only get to do it once a year, and so outside of that, I'm super busy. And then of course, but once a year I get to really know that I'm celebrating life, and that's what I did. Thank you to all who came out. I appreciate it so much. Yeah, Princess, she's one of the she has a podcast here on 7 Mile Radio. She brought the drinks to my birthday party. She had everybody on they head, baby. On they head. We was still. When I say we was still, we was still. So yeah, I appreciate that so much. And every other vendor who helped me out this weekend. Now to the topic at hand. Again, this is June, so it is Pride Month, and we really wanted to keep the conversation about, the LGBTQ and, getting to know us a little better. Today, we are going to talk about the effects of Roe v. Wade, how that trickles down to other decision-making opportunities moving forward. Clarence Thomas has some, I'm really just reading about some of his thoughts on some reversals that he would like to see happen. And so I'm going to turn it over to Mac. I'm about to finish kind of looking over this article that she sent me. And in the meantime, I'm going to hand the mic over to Mac.
Okay, so something that has happened this week that has not happened in my entire 50 years on this earth is that the Supreme Court has reversed one of their own decisions. It's not something that is very common. We see amendments, we see adjustments, we see, exceptions and stuff like that, but I've never seen, I'm sure it's been done at some point prior to my birth, but I've never seen the Supreme Court set precedent with a case and then reverse it 50 years later. The, the, the problem with Roe v. Wade, based on the majority of the Supreme Court justices, is that the philosophical thought that went into legalizing abortion, they suggest was inaccurate, erroneous, and should never have ever been made law. Consequently, they're going and going with a fine-tooth comb through the Constitution and the meaning of every particular word. And in the due process clause of the Constitution, there's a section where it talks about liberty. And the liberty, I'm going to read it so I don't misquote it. It says the clause guarantees that no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That's the due process clause of the Constitution. What they're suggesting is that the word liberty in that particular clause was taken out of context. The liberty was not necessarily to give people the right to decide if they were going to give birth or not. They said they stretched the wording and the meaning of that word in order to accommodate an agenda. And so now they have overturned Roe v. Wade. Clarence Thomas, the one black male Supreme Court justice, is now suggesting that there were three other cases, three other precedents that were set under that same quote unquote erroneous school of thought, one of which was gay marriage. We should not have had the liberty as gay people to get married. The other is contraception. We should not have the liberty to stop, I guess, life from developing or life from forming or life from being conceived. And I think the other one, what was it? Gay marriage, contraception, and personal, private sexual acts between, partners in their own bedroom. So he's suggesting, and how far does this really go? If you're suggesting that the same court, the same highest court in the land, I'm talking about the highest of the echelon of intelligence, right? They decided, based on the wording of the Constitution, that something should be changed. In fact, years ago, what was it, Thomas Jefferson? Thomas Jefferson was wise and astute enough to know that every 9 years we should adjust the Constitution.
Right.
To adapt to the movement or the growing and the times.
To the times of now, today.
Of
the
society.
current times.
Right.
But that hasn't been done. So now we're going back to the original tenets of the Constitution because it's a predominantly Republican Supreme Court,
Right.
which is a proponent for pro-life
Right.
at whatever cost. What this Roe v. Wade just did was, Jesus, so you mean to tell me a woman that gets raped has to be traumatized every day for 9 months? She can't do anything. She just has to carry this and just relive that thing every day and have this.
I mean, and not only for the 9 months, and then you have to give birth to the child.
You gotta
have
give
to
birth,
raise
then
the
you gotta
child.
give it
You know,
away.
you have to love the child,
Yeah.
or or give it away.
Well, of course,
But-
I'm pro-life, so we know, I
Are
am.
you pro-life with no exception?
Yes.
No exception.
Yes. I'm pro-life with no exception.
If there was a risk to the health of the mother.
So,
Let's say Elaine was carrying Harper, and they told you there's a 90% chance she's not going to survive if she gives birth. No exceptions?
no exceptions for me.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pro-life, and so I feel like yes, it's for me. I do get when people say, well, what if she was raped, or what if it was incest, all of these things. I just believe that every growing child embryo has a purpose.
Okay, so let me ask you this. This might go a little deep though. Okay, so let's relate it to this whole Clarence Thomas thing and this whole suggestion of contraception, right? Or even fertility drugs and all of that. That falls under the whole contraception
Right.
because now you're controlling
Right.
life. You're
Right.
controlling whether or not it comes, whether or not you conceive, or whether or
Right.
not it comes forth.
Right.
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 So, that would have had this happened maybe 10 years ago, and let's say this case came up for contraception, Harper wouldn't be here.
But he here.
He here.
Right.
But so if we can manufacture life, right?
Right.
Now that I'm not saying it wasn't purposed, because it was intentional and it was
Right,
it was
it was,
purposed.
right,
You understand what I'm
exactly.
saying? And
Right.
if he was not ever supposed to come into this world, God would have made sure that didn't happen.
Right, exactly, and that's my point.
Right. So, if we can determine when we want to bring forth life, why then can't we determine when we don't?
You can determine when you don't.
Not
because,
anymore?
well, yeah. I mean, there are ways to not conceive, right? And
At this
so,
point, if we go with Clarence Thomas, the only way to not conceive is abstinence.
right. Well,
if he
okay.
wants to
Well,
obliterate
right. I
contraception.
get that, but he has a whole. He has a whole Supreme.
That's just
Court
his suggestion.
Right. That's just his
Yeah.
suggestion. I don't think that they will move forward with that. My biggest thing with that is the gay marriage. You know, that may be put on the table and considered,
I see it,
right?
yeah.
So so that's something that I'm like, okay, but the contraceptive, I don't see that being put on the table. I don't see that being put on the table in the future, right? And so if you don't want to have children, you know what to do to not have children. There are so many people that want to have kids that can't have kids.
True.
You know,
Me.
right. So, you know, adoption, all of that's why they give you all of these different options that you have when you can't foresee yourself taking care of a child.
So I'm gonna share a personal story.
A lot of people may bring up how exhausted the adoption system is
Not
right
just
now.
exhausted
Not
but
to
just
give
expensive.
a child, but to adopt a child. Yes, because it's expensive. It's a lot to it. They look for certain things, and so yeah, it can be costly for some. But to give your child, that's never an exhausting process, because you can say that's something that you could say. You know, I don't want the child, and so they're not gonna they can't turn the child away because you say I don't want the child. The child automatically
Under the
goes
safe
into the
harbor
system.
law,
Yeah.
it's certain places
Yes.
you have to take. You can't just
Yeah.
be like, fuck it. You know what
Right,
I'm saying?
exactly. Right.
Fire station, police department,
Right,
hospital,
exactly.
you know.
Right, exactly. And then with the Roe v. Wade overturn, that's a state by state. That's gonna be a state by state decision.
Yeah.
Right.
They're giving them the discretion to do, but then you got 26 states.
Right.
that
You
are
got
Republican.
22 that's already against it.
And
right.
they've already enacted the law. Like, if you had an appointment, baby girl, you got to go somewhere else now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Somebody on YouTube made a comment and said, but if you destroy an eagle's egg, you'll be in prison for life.
Oh, yeah?
I don't know if that's true, but
I'm going to have to Google that. I can't comment because I don't know.
yeah.
What?
Damn.
But yeah, I mean that you probably will be prosecuted for something like that. You know, you go into like what's the I can't even think of it, like a national reserve, or where
Oh,
those
yeah.
wildlife.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You destroy
But it sound right. It almost sound like that could be possible, right?
But so if the Supreme Court has the ability, just depending on the majority of the color of the Supreme Court, if they have the ability, now they can't just do it. A case has to
Right.
come before them.
Right.
And then they have to, dissect that case, the tenets of the Constitution and all that, and then they come up with a decision. So now a case comes up before the court about gay marriage. Now they're presented with this thing. And you already have at least one Republican Supreme Court justice that wants to do away with this, that, or the other.
Right.
I mean, will he get the majority of support behind him on all of those things? I do not think so. But I do believe that the majority of the Republican Party is not in support of gay marriage. I do believe that that is a very real threat. Because what you've now shown us is no matter what y'all said before, y'all can come back and say, we made a mistake, we misinterpreted a word, and we can just wipe out all of these marriages that y'all think are legitimate.
Right. Right.
How do you feel about that?
I feel like, it's something very real. It's something that can happen. I am legally married. Um, so me and my wife, we have our affairs in order. Whatever, we have insurance. We have those things that we already have in place. So I just suggest that if you are, legally married and gay or lesbian, get your affairs in order, because this
Get
is
other
something-
documentation.
Get other
to
documentation.
substantiate your union.
Absolutely, because this is something that's very real, and so you can be forced with those things, and then we're back to the drawing board, right?
I mean, there's notaries out here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I remember I was in a relationship for 10 years, and she kept saying, "You want to get married?" I was like, "It ain't legal."
Yeah.
And that was my out. I'm like, "It ain't legal."
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But when it became legal, I still wanted to.
Well, because it was
I
legal
did.
in certain states.
Yeah, and
you
I'm like,
know,
I'm not about to
and,
fly
and
here
100%
and be
legal
legal there and
Right,
come here and
right,
it's not
right.
recognized.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
because
what-
that's what we did.
and so then you draw up paperwork
Yeah.
in lieu of my death or in lieu of such and such. That
Right,
you get it
exactly.
notarized.
Right,
There
exactly.
are ways like the same thing. Well, I won't say the same thing because there are still some benefits you're not going to receive if you're not legally married.
Right.
You know, in terms of Social Security and shit
Right,
like that.
right,
But
right, right.
In terms of what your last expectations and desires are.
Right.
Those can be followed through. And
Right.
You can document that, notarize that.
Absolutely.
Even in terms of children that you've accumulated together. You know what I'm saying? There are pieces of paper. that
Well,
you
see,
can
I'm
fill
on
out.
Harper's birth certificate.
Amen.
So, that's something that, like I said,
So how do they do that? Is it mom and then mom?
other parent.
Other parent. Oh, they have that on there. And that's special.
Yep, other parent. So that's something that we were adamant about. Like I said, I'm strict on that paperwork because because this is something that's not just a new fear.
Yeah.
We say it all the time, it could possibly be overturned. Like I said, we went to New York and got married because it was legal there. Even though it's legal everywhere now and we're recognized as married everywhere, when we got married, it wasn't recognized here. However, they had to recognize it because we had New York paperwork. So, I was able to come home and Elaine was able to get her last name changed and she was able to put it on her license and now Anthony is her legal last name, so
And I used to say, I'm like, I don't need no marriage license to do. We don't need to get married to do this, that, and the other. I said we can just draw up some paperwork, get it notarized, and keep it moving. Like,
That's pretty much all you need.
yeah.
but there are
things.
some things.
Yes.
Now, so how? Okay, so
Health
even though you
insurance.
have exactly, but they
You
have
know,
domestic
Right, right.
partnership. A lot
But
of
some
companies nowadays
don't do. Some
Don't
companies
honor
don't
that shit.
honor
they don't.
the.
She
the
was fortunate. I was
domestic
fortunate enough that she worked for a company that had domestic partnership
Yeah.
insurance, so you could justify
Yeah.
that you're living together,
Yeah,
cohabitating.
yes.
Then they would allow that.
Yeah,
But
and they strict when they want that information.
Yeah, yeah.
They
they check that shit.
Yes.
They check that shit like we ain't about to be insuring
Because
as
you
anybody.
can't say, well, yeah, we stay together. So they want lease.
Mm-hmm.
They want the 3-year lease. All they want everything. You know what I'm saying?
You
I
gotta
work
have
for Blue
something in
Cross
that
and Blue
motherfucker
Shield.
in your name.
They want yes.
You know what I'm
they wanted
saying?
that
Yeah.
stuff. Yes. Yeah, they
So
wanted.
even though you have the documentation, right? Mm-hmm. You have the paperwork that substantiates. I'm saying excuse me to the mic. That substantiates your union, right? Mm-hmm. How would you feel though, if case comes before the Supreme Court and they decide to interpret that word liberty the same way they did to obliterate Roe v. Wade, and then they say every gay marriage is no longer valid?
Is this all?
How would
then
you
what-
feel, regardless of the paperwork and the legalities of all that? Just as a person.
I would feel like defeated probably.
A little bit.
Yeah, because it's like we come this far, boom, and then
Just to have
it's
it all
back-
snatched
yeah,
back.
Just
to have
snatch
it that
back.
way,
So
yeah.
that's like, okay, if they're going to do that, then they got to let out everybody that's in jail for marijuana charges.
And that makes complete sense. Because if it's not legalized and it's recreationally legalized, then if we're going to retroactively dissolve marriages, then let's retroactively dissolve sentences.
See, this
Yeah.
is this is
You understand what I'm
this
saying?
is
That's how
gonna,
deep it
unravel. There's a big ass onion
You-
now.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Because if we're going to,
Yeah.
since we're doing the Roe versus Wade, if y'all gonna start peeling back the layers of the onion until y'all get to that point,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Then let's peel back all of the layers and fix all of this shit. Is that what we getting to?
It's like, how far are we taking
How
this
far
shit?
are we
How
gonna
far-
go with it?
Yeah.
Do we go back to, like you said earlier, Brown versus
Brown
Board,
versus
of,
Board of
Education?
Education,
If
no.
you're going to
Right.
say, okay, Roe v. Wade, any case in the Supreme Court that
my
is
point, my
decided
point, my
sets precedent. It sets law
Right.
for all of the lower courts, all of the states, all of that. Now, states have a statutory right to enforce it or not, right? So, or they can say, well, you know, in my state or state of Michigan, what's her name?
Granholm.
No, not Granholm.
Whitmer.
Whitmer. She ain't about to be fining motherfuckers. She's like, it's gonna be a $1 fine, because she still wants people to be able to make their own choices with their own bodies. So yeah, it's on a state level you can make decisions, but I mean, like, how far does this shit go?
Yeah. I feel like, you
Or,
know,
or are we just picking and choosing?
We're picking and choosing based on what our political party stands for. We're not picking and choosing because
Of our
it's our individual view.
Yeah, right.
This is what our party stands for. Two of those Supreme Court justices that were part of this decision were, they went through the whole confirmation hearing. You know how they do? They go through the whole confirmation. They just grill the shit out of them, right?
Right.
How do you feel about Roe v. Wade? And they had these rehearsed answers, basically just straight line to Congress. Oh, it's the law of the land, and I respect the law of the land. But then when the case comes before you, you're one of the ones that have now turned over Roe v. Wade. So then why is there no consequence for your deception to Congress just to get in position to do what you intended to do?
right.
Let's unravel the whole onion.
Let's
then,
unravel the
right?
whole onion.
All of the corruption that's
Y'all
in the
sat
government.
there and said what you thought Congress wanted to hear in order to,
get
confirm you.
to get you in a position to change it.
You understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
now let's stack
what it's about,
the
though.
court. Let's stack the court.
That's what it's about.
And then let's hope a case comes before us on this merit, and because we stack the court.
Now we can overrule this shit without.
And
any
who gonna
kind of
fuck? Who
rebuttal.
gonna fucking say
Without
something?
any rebuttal,
You-
right.
who- that's the highest court of the land,
Right.
and your word is law,
Right.
federal law anyway.
Right. Exactly.
I really want somebody to call in. Somebody call in.
Let's put the number up there then so they can call in and see
Yeah.
what they feel about it. 313-723-0481 is the call in line. Let me open it up right quick. See what y'all think about it.
There was a comment. So if that is your belief of no exceptions, what is, wait a minute.
What is the recourse for the child?
Who would raise the child? I was gonna read that too. Who's to raise the child if no one wanted it, or if the child of the mother has died? I mean, you had already talked about the whole adoption process and
Yeah.
putting the child up for adoption. You know, what I mean? So they wouldn't have nobody there to take care of, nobody to
But
love.
I'm telling you,
Right,
I'm gonna
that's
tell
the
y'all something
recourse.
about this system. It's a bad place.
It is.
It's a bad place. And
Just going to the little guy, the 3-year-old whose mother
Put him in the
put
fucking
him
freezer,
in the freezer.
how many times protective services
at
came out to that motherfucker?
12.
13 times.
13
Yep,
times.
And come on now.
Well,
Come
13
on now.
times in the last few months, right?
Yeah.
Because it had been
The family had been
reported
caught.
since March that the baby had been missing,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
she
Turns out-
telling the neighbors, oh, he with family.
Family,
She
out
telling
of
the family,
town.
I gave him up for adoption. No, bitch, he's in your freezer.
Yeah.
And you got these other kids in here being traumatized with a dead body of their sibling in
Yeah.
the fucking freezer.
But take you back to Michelle.
Michelle,
yeah, in the King
yeah.
homes.
Yeah.
Yep, in the King
Michelle
home.
Blair.
Blair.
Michelle
Yep,
Blair.
Blair.
And you know, so many times the CPS went out to her home, you know, and kept leaving because she's like, everything's okay. And same thing, the kids are with their dad.
Right.
The dads hadn't
Well,
seen
bitch,
the
follow
kids.
up.
Yeah, they
Call.
hadn't seen the kids in years,
I can't.
you know. So
Right.
I do think that the system is flawed.
Like, okay, so I was going to share this a little bit earlier. So my son is not my natural child. I've had him since he came out the womb. I helped deliver him, cut his umbilical cord, named him, everything, day one. He is a product of statutory rape.
Right.
The girl, she was 15. The father was 32.
Right.
By the time the mother found out, she was beyond the legal point of abortion. But I believe had her mother found out before then that he would have been aborted. So, but thank God though, right? Because he's come into my life and like changed my life, right? Like changed my life big time. So I get the pro-life. I also question because I know her today at 20. Let me see. She was 15. He'll be 13. 28.
Okay.
I'm familiar with her today. She is still affected for having to have carried and then having to have given up something that was growing in her for 9 months.
Right.
And so it's the trauma on top of the trauma.
Right.
That
But in her
I
case,
think
it
about.
was almost like she was just traumatized with the fact that she couldn't have her child because her mother wouldn't allow her to, right? Because the rape was, it was statutory, but they were in a relationship.
Yeah.
So for them, it's kind of different because she was loving this man and she wanted this baby. And this mama said, nah, yeah, nah.
But
Hold that thought. Who's this? Where you calling from, caller?
What's going on, y'all? This profile E.
What's up, E?
What's going on?
So, calling about this topic that you guys are having, you know, I was going to touch on it anyway on my sideline. You know, you guys hit one of the topics as you were talking about the Roe versus Wade. I brought it up maybe, 2-3 weeks ago that, you know, the case was already in court and everything. And you know, now that it's been overturned, you know, what are the outcomes of this? What's going to happen? And, you know, all these comments, everybody's like, oh, well, I'm pro-life, and, you know, no exceptions, no, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Well, I come across a story not only about the 3-year-old that was in the freezer, I come across a story about a lady in Atlanta sets her house on fire and then stabs three out of the 5 of her kids. Now, you get what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I heard about that one.
Yeah, and it was kind of terrifying because on the story, the neighbors was like, you know, we would have never expected it. She seemed like a good mother. And then on the other hand, you know, people like, well, you know, the kids hadn't been outside in a while, and you know, it was just a bunch. And even when people say, oh, well, I called CPS, you know, do a check. I need to do a check. I think these CPS workers need to start being held liable for these children's deaths. Because if we're going to overturn one to say, oh, no, you're going to have this baby, and you're going to carry this baby, or you're going to keep this baby. Now,
So what's
you guys
support?
need to be liable. Right. And that's it. What are we going to do different now to keep these people from killing these babies and put them in the freezer? What are we going to do different now? Or what?
Or from doing damage to themselves trying to do illegal abortions.
Exactly, because I was saying in a minute, it's going to happen in the basement. They're going to start
You
going
know,
back
they're
to the
going to be in
basement.
a hanger with a hanger in the alley again.
Absolutely,
You know what I'm saying? Putting babies in dumpsters and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Brittany's got a baby.
So,
Like, what support
Yeah,
are, if
so,
we're saying don't abort, what support are we as a state, as a government, going to offer these people? I mean, okay, what do you do about postpartum?
as
Like,
a
where's the
world,
mental
this
health
is what
care?
we're going to offer as a world. Because guess how many children are in the adoption agencies right now? And guess what? So many of them don't get adopted once they hit that pass of a 1-year-old, because most people want babies because the fear of getting a teenager or the fear of getting a child that's 5 or 6
That's
is
damaged from the system.
Right, it's damaged from the system. So now they're like, oh no, I just want a newborn, or I want a 1-year-old. I can program them. I can raise them. So now what are we going to do? So now you're going to keep dropping these kids off. Now we're going to build more adoption agencies. What's going to happen?
Who's going to pay the child care?
Right. Who's going to pay the child care? Who's going to feed these kids? You're complaining now about state revenue being up at every state because they're having to feed kids and having to clothe kids and keep children and help mothers who can't afford to do so. how is this going to help us? How is this going to help us?
Well, for me, like I said, everybody know I'm pro-life, so that's I been that way all my life, because my mother was pro-life, so that's just the thing for me. I feel like and this is a stretch, but you have to be when are the people because aside from people who get raped, aside from people who have well, not aside from people who have incestual relationships, because they know what they're doing, however they're doing it. You understand what I'm saying? When do we take accountability for when do we take accountability?
Now, I
Like,
don't agree
so-
with abortion as a form of birth control.
right,
I
so
do
I
not.
mean,
Me neither.
So-
I
Absolutely.
agree with it
I
only
agree, right.
with exception. That's it.
right, so
And
right,
I think that with abortions, there should be, just like y'all have a database of everything else. There should be a database of who's getting an abortion. If these people
Well,
are
I'm
going
sure
to the
it
abortion
is.
clinic, no, but it's not safe to say.
No,
it's
it's
to
not
make
because it's protected under HIPAA.
right.
It's
So
a
that's what
medical
I'm saying.
procedure, and I don't have to
If
reveal
you're
that to
so
anybody
worried,
without
right,
authorization.
and if you're so worried about how many people
Right.
are getting abortions, and all this, make it a database. They got to log in. If I got to go to CVS and produce my ID to buy Tylenol cold to sinus, then they should have to produce every ID to get a damn abortion.
well, you do have to produce identification. I
But it
understand.
should be a database to where they cannot do it more than what? What are we gonna limit it to?
Well,
no, it's
because
not
if you're
it's
saying
not a
a
form
person
of
is
abort. It's not a
pro-choice, then
form
they
of
can
birth
have
control.
abortion for however many times they want
However
to.
many
If you're
times, yeah.
if you're pro-choice, you can have it 100 times if you get pregnant 100 times, and don't want to have a kid. My thing is, don't listen. Protect yourself. Abstinence, because everybody knows the consequences of unprotected sex.
So can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So, okay, you got a 9-year-old little girl, right? Raped by her daddy, pregnant. You believe wholeheartedly that that child should come to life, into the world,
Yes.
no matter what it's doing to the psyche of that 9-year-old.
And no matter
Well,
what it's going to do to the newborn, because
I
now we're
know-
going to daddy
I
and
know
a
that
child, offspring having another child.
Delivering at 9 years old.
It's happened. It's happened.
It's
there's
happened,
been-
but I'm talking
saying
about the mental.
9-year-olds. But again, I just believe that everything on earth has a purpose. I just believe that. I believe that everything. I believe that everyone and everything is purposeful, right?
And
So,
that's giving, you know what that's giving power to? That's giving power to the rapist. Because now, not only did I impregnate you, now you got to carry my baby.
And bring it to
That's
life.
giving power.
And somebody
and
gonna
bring it
take
to
care of
life.
this shit.
And somebody gonna take care of it. That is empowering the rapist, because now they like, dude, I can produce life and ain't got to worry about it.
So Elaine,
'Cause now
you're pro life with exception, or you pro life?
I'm pro life with deception.
Okay.
Because I would never want to put one of our daughters in that situation. If they got raped to this day, there's no way in hell I'm gonna say, hey, you got to carry that rapist baby. There's no way in hell I'm gonna say that.
Tough
you do what
question.
you feel is mentally you do what's mentally stable for you.
Right.
I can't make that choice for your mental. I can't do
It's
that. I
all-
can't put you
it's
in that way.
It'll all be a mental process. Just the pregnancy in itself, just going through an abortion, having an abortion
Absolutely.
is not is just as hard as giving
It's
birth and
traumatic,
giving away.
but
It
it's
is
something that
traumatic.
It's
happens in
traumatic,
the moment.
but it's not
It's
as
traum-
and you can
it's not
deal
as
with it
it's not as
thereafter.
traumatic as
Stop.
having to carry a
Something
child for
that's
9 months to carry.
It's
It's not
do you
it's
think
not
it
traumatic
is?
as having
It's
to carry
all
a child for
it's
9 months
all-
to give it up.
It's all traumatic.
It's not as
all
traumatic.
and every traumatic experience is different. You can't say what's traumatic for one person against the next. What's traumatic for
And
you?
that's my point.
Listen,
you
what's traumatic
can't tell,
for
you can't tell somebody that they should keep that baby because
What's
you're
traumatic
pro-life,
for you
because you don't know
is
how
not
that's going to affect
traumatic
them in the
for
long run.
others. So somebody who gets pregnant by their rapist and they have to get on an abortion table and child be taken away. I know I'm pregnant. I got to get on the abortion table. Baby dead. every year.
But
I'm
then
gonna
there's
think
a-
about
there's a baby
every
ain't dead.
year.
Embryo is deceased. So
But you're
there's
not.
a point
but
of
it's-
viability.
No.
There is a point
How-
of viability.
Right, but okay.
If that baby cannot live outside of the womb, it's
what
not
if
a
you
baby.
what if you find out that you're pregnant by rapist 3 months down the line, 2 months down the line? That's a baby. It's not an embryo. An embryo is 6 to 8 weeks or
Right,
whatever,
right,
6
right.
weeks. When a full
Yes,
baby,
up to 6
2
weeks.
months, 3 months, that's a baby. I'm on the abortion table. I'm getting an abortion every year. On this date, I'm gonna think about that abortion every year from the 9 months that I was supposed to have this kid. I'm gonna think about what this kid should have been, could have been, or all of these things.
And guess what?
So they're
and guess
all
what?
traumatic.
And guess what?
It's
to
all
counteract what
traumatic,
you're
but
saying,
like how
to
long does the
yeah,
trauma
but-
have to
but-
last, bro?
It'll last a lifetime.
I mean, it may
It's
last
gonna
a
last- it's
lifetime,
gonna last-
but
it's gonna
then
last even
daily
more.
for 9 months.
Listen to me.
Nine months, you know how many people commit
speaking
suicide
to-
and things like
Debbie
that?
done stabbed himself in the stomach about
Hey,
6
caller.
months.
Hey, caller, do me a favor. If you got your phone on speakerphone or Bluetooth, just take that off and talk directly into your phone so we can hear you clear.
Yep, I don't.
Okay, go ahead.
So, for me, and speaking from a victim of rape, right? I was 15, or I was 16. I'm sorry, and I'm still traumatized, and I didn't get pregnant.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So the trauma
The
is
trauma
forever.
lasts, but then
The trauma is
so
forever.
we're not. But
Every time I ride past,
that
you understand what I'm
space,
saying?
I feel it.
You understand what I'm saying?
nobody's
and
taking
I
that-
literally
nobody's taking
just
that
started
from
dealing
you.
with that maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I really just started dealing with the fact that I did have that experience,
Yeah.
and that experience was an ongoing experience for a couple of weeks for me, right? So I really,
Let me ask you a question. If you were impregnated, would you have kept that child?
but I'm pro-life.
Would you have? You would have birthed the child. Would
Right.
you have kept that child?
You know what?
Because people think I can carry it and just put it
People
up for
think
adoption,
that,
and then it's nothing.
absolutely.
That system
It'll-
is fucked up. I was in it. You don't ever want to put a kid in that shit. That's why I took mine in.
But
Ever.
and then not only
Right.
that, to have to push on the child and have that emotional connection. Do you know how many people would stop eating properly? How many people would take drugs while they're pregnant?
now the child
If
is
you-
malnourished.
Right, and that's the
They
difference.
drinking and drugging
People-
because they
but
trying to
right.
cope. And now you got FAS.
People will-
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Fetal
People
alcohol
can go to
syndrome.
therapy. Right.
You
Absolutely.
have-
People go to therapy first for this rape. But now, not only do I have to carry this child of a rapist 9 months and feel this baby kick inside of me, I have to make this decision. Am I going to raise this rapist child not know anything about this rapist, or am I
His
going to give this
background,
baby
that's
up?
it.
And so, and then not only that, now if I get this baby up because I had to carry this baby for 9 months, I'm losing a connection with my child. I'm giving this child not ever knowing who it is. So guess what? I'm even more psychological damage than I would have been knowing that I did not have to carry this child and feed this child and still.
But
this
I'm
child
still,
inside
but I'm
me every
still,
Say
day.
that shit.
but I'm still gonna wonder about what the child would have been if I got an abortion. What would the child have been? How old the child would have been?
I
What
would
we have
hope
been
not.
doing? What? Why?
I would hope that
Any
if you
living
decided
thing,
to
any living
end this
thing that-
life or potential life, that now your life at some point has to go on without that possibility.
Once
I
you-
don't think that you are going to sit and wonder what could have been forever. You're eventually going to resolve within yourself the decision that you made, become at peace with it at some point.
How when y'all?
But if I have to look my
when it's-
rapist
Okay.
child in the face every
In the
day,
face,
But how would that
imagine
happen?
the consequence to my mental.
right?
And imagine what
Get a
they may
child
do
up
to
for
that
adoption.
child. They may have
But
a
you
hatred
say
for
that
that
so
child.
easily, but I was. Deal.
Yeah.
Were you ever a system kid?
I wasn't.
It
but here's
sounds
the thing.
easy, baby girl.
Right.
That
Listen,
is
what
not
I'm
a
saying
place you
is-
want to send no child.
But you don't-
I would
you don't
rather
go to the
abort my
system.
child than send my child to the system.
Right, but
I
you-
know what that system is made of. I
Right.
know it's a money grab. They don't give a fuck about us.
Right.
They didn't give a fuck about us.
Right. Right.
Just,
When you're-
give it up for adoption. Oh, put it in the system. Send them to foster care. At least
Well,
bring the
well,
life in,
okay,
but you
so here's
fucking
the-
that life up by putting
No.
them in a place that's not conducive for their mental capacity or
No.
mental health. It's not.
No, it's different when you go into the system at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 from your family issues outside of that, right? It's completely different. When
So
you
if I go
put up
into
for
the
an
system
adoption,
from birth, then I
it's
become
not, I'm-
accustomed to
no,
this system
no,
life.
because once it's an adoption established, then they start to find those adoptive parents off
You
rip.
ever had to go through the adoption process?
So the majority of the time, we thought about it, we talked about it, we looked into it, we researched it. I know
you
people
decide against it. Why?
I did not decide against it. For us, it was difficult for gay partners to adopt. They
got
just
you.
started to
got you.
allow that. I have. Go ahead.
No, I was about to say, somebody in the comments suggested, Ronnie Simmons said, it's not the same. When a person makes a decision for themselves, they handle it different. So the trauma, if any, is different.
Right. You're not making my decision.
Right.
I made my
You
decision.
didn't make my decision.
I own my
right.
shit.
That
I
decision
am
was
going to
given
deal
me
with the
because I had no
consequences of
choice.
my own decision.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Again,
Absolutely.
the trauma stays the same. You can't say.
There's trauma,
I sit
then
on
there's
an abortion.
trauma
Right.
on top of trauma.
So I'm sitting. I'm choosing to abort my child.
Yes.
And I don't feel like, and this may sound a little, but I don't feel like a man will ever understand. They can give
Try
their
to
opinion.
empathize.
They can give their opinion all day, right? But a woman who's carried children, and you know what it feel like from conception, right? You know what it feel like from conception. At 2 and 3 months, a baby in your stomach, you know what that feel like. So it's not easy to sit on the table, get an abortion, and be okay with it moving forward, regardless of how you got there,
I'm
right?
sure people
It's
are
the same.
traumatized.
It is. It's the same
Okay.
trauma. Let me finish talking.
say something.
Let me finish. So, the same as if I carried this child for 9 months because I was raped. Of course, you're gonna have to have excessive counseling. I'm giving this child up. I'm not facing this child on a daily basis. I'm not looking at my rapist child on a daily basis because I've chosen to give the baby up for adoption, right? So once that adoption process goes, they're looking for the adoptive parents. It's not always that a child that's put up for adoption is put into the system. The children that are put into the system are children that were taken from their homes.
Not necessarily.
for
Donovan would
major-
have straight to the system from the hospital if I did not step in.
Because
that boy
there
would
was
have
no
been in the
ado-
system until somebody decided they wanted a little boy.
Right, because there was no adoption process on the floor, right?
Right.
So if there's an adoption process on the floor already,
So
child don't
because
go
you
into
think
the
because
system.
he was a baby that he would have just went from the hospital to the
Well, just like
so
you wanted
damage
him,
can be done
Just
from
like
the
you
time that
wanted
he
him,
leaves that
right?
hospital to the time he gets to his
Okay, wait.
forever home.
So
Right.
first of all, a lot
Damage
of them
can
go
still
straight
be
to
done.
foster care until most of them are fostered
the
until they
wrong
get into
people.
the system all the way. Most of the kids are fostered when they're born. There's not a lot of people standing in line like, oh my goodness, I want a baby, and oh, I know somebody personally I can get a baby from. So a lot of these babies go to foster. But what I was going to say to you was,
have you researched that?
wait, hold on. Wait, yes, I looked it up. We talked about it when we were talking about if I couldn't get pregnant right away, would we adopt?
Right, but they don't go
We
right
talked
into
about
the
that.
system. There's
They
an
have
No,
to.
I just said
so
that.
there
become
are
a ward
adoptions.
of the- listen, they become the ward of a state first.
Of
They
the
have
state.
to
So they go
into
to the
a
they go to
process.
foster homes
Right,
until
They
they're
have to go
adopted.
into a process.
Right, I agree.
Anything can happen in
But
the
wait.
interim of that processing.
Right.
Before they reach their forever
But
home.
wait, what
Don't
I was
make
going
the
to say
system sound
was-
like it's just so well. It's people out here. It's people out here that will love a child, but it's people out here that will
Right.
fuck a child up too.
It is.
Okay,
It
and
is.
for
I
money,
agree.
for money. But listen, what I was going to say was, on a personal level, I don't share my stories in my world too much. Okay, I have terminated a pregnancy. My choice to terminate that pregnancy was based on what I was already going through on a daily basis, and whether I wanted to bring another child in the world up under those circumstances. And I decided not to, for my benefit, for my child's benefit that's already living, because it was a terrible situation. And I struggled with it for a minute. I felt guilty, but then I didn't feel guilty because I'm like, I could be putting this child in harm's way. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't know what's going to happen to my other child. So people make decisions based on themselves. It wasn't a selfish decision. It was a selfish decision because I had to make a hard choice I had to make a hard choice, and I lived with that hard choice for a very long time. I had to forgive myself, and what made me forgive myself is our reader coming to that baby coming to me through our through our reader, through
Our
our spiritual
spiritual
reader,
advisor.
and our spiritual advisor, and telling me it's okay, mommy. I wasn't going to be here anyway.
Mm.
I wasn't meant to be here anyway.
Yeah, she said I didn't want
And
to be
that
here
put,
anyway.
yeah, she said I didn't want to be here anyway, and it put me at ease
Mm.
even more because I'm like, whew. I'm still here like, oh my goodness, 15
Now I
years
don't have
later,
to feel
I'm still
guilty.
like, I don't have to feel guilty, but I felt guilty, but I didn't. I felt relieved that I didn't have to be trapped with more than one child in a bad situation, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Mm. Mm.
So people make decisions based on their life. No, it's not a form of birth control. Yes, I was on freaking birth control and still got pregnant though,
So,
and
Dia,
still got pregnant.
Yes,
every child that's conceived, you believe has a purpose, right?
I do.
Okay. Now, are we talking about just natural conception or manufactured conception? Because if we can manufacture conception, then was that God's original intent?
Everything is his original intent because it's happening, right?
I mean,
so,
it's happening if he
yeah,
allows
so
it. I get
yeah,
it. I
so
get it.
everything,
I understand.
right? And
I
so
just want to know. I'm trying to dig a little
I
bit.
know, but it's that's just what I
So you
feel.
just absolute. Like I just want to ask you, just bottom line, no exceptions, no nothing. I don't care how young. Now kids getting pregnant at 9, 10 years old, right? And they don't even their brains are not even fully developed, so their mental capacity ain't even fully developed.
I
Right?
agree.
And so we expect this child to carry a child as a result of
Well,
rape,
you know,
incest, or whatever. Fuck her head up even more. I don't believe that a
I mean,
child, a
some women at
9-year-old,
9
has
and
the
10 are just having
understanding of
sex.
what some of them are.
Yeah,
But
it's not about rape
my
or
scenario. The scenario. I want to give you the worst case possible scenario, and I
I'm
still want you to
pro-life.
tell me you pro-life.
I'm pro life with no
Damn.
exceptions.
So you don't. Damn. Come on, baby girl.
Well, it looks like DL gonna be buying a big house, so she's gonna have a lot of
I got a
babies to
question
take care
for
of
you,
when they start
Elaine.
dropping these babies off.
Elaine,
You
I
know
got
what?
a
I
question.
don't mind that. I love big families. You know that I'm still a little upset that I only got one grandchild. So, you know that
Well,
kind
yeah,
of
we
play on
upset
my
we got one
heartstrings all the
grandchild.
time.
Yeah, we upset we got one grandchild, but guess what? That real grandchild ain't gonna be living with us.
Elaine.
Right? That's what I said.
Elaine,
Yes.
y'all get pregnant,
Yes.
right? Y'all pregnant.
Yes.
The doctor
Uh-huh.
tell you early on,
Uh-huh.
if the chances of you surviving as a result of giving birth to this child are none, would you still bring forth life?
No,
Damn.
because I wouldn't be selfish enough to leave my other children to bring on a child that if we're early on, early, we got to be early though. We got to be in the 1 month stage to where the point the baby's no
Before
arm,
you
no
feel
legs.
some kicking and eyeballs forming and shit.
It's got to be just a ball. It's got to be just a ball because I wouldn't be selfish enough to leave my other children in
here's
this
the
world
thing.
without me.
Right, and here's the thing with us too.
Yeah.
When we started our process with Harper, you know, we saw our doctor a lot, right? With making the decision before she got pregnant, we saw our doctor a lot. And so that's that thing where you have to know what the you have to know what to expect, what the expectancies are. And so we went into it. We went into the pregnancy with Harper.
Healthy, baby.
We
everything was good.
that she was gonna be high risk, right? We started to eat different, right?
Okay.
We started to do things different, because we knew that she was going. Because the doctor told us before we even got pregnant,
So how do
it's
you
gonna be high
feel
risk.
about, because see what Clarence Thomas is suggesting is that we're gonna get rid of all fertility drugs and contraception,
Right.
which
He
would
only wants natural
which
birth.
would have done what?
Well, for me, for us, it wouldn't have affected us because we used the pop dildo,
Okay.
and so we
You
had.
didn't go through no medical procedure.
No,
I got you.
no, we did
Okay,
not.
I got you.
So we still win.
Okay. Say that shit. Okay,
So we
then.
still win. So yeah,
So Elaine,
Yes.
how you feel about the potential of them possibly revisiting gay marriage and saying that this is no longer a constitutional right?
Yeah, we actually talked about that. That's funny. We talked about that yesterday and today, actually. And I think it's messed up because I want to know why would go on my household affect you? What bill can't you pay because what I do in my house? How can you not feed your kids because what I do in my house?
Right,
How can your life not go on because what I do in my life?
right.
And with Clarence, I'm like, your old shriveled up nuts and your
So
wife
you
old
ain't even about
shriveled
to
up
give
ears ain't
birth.
producing no
Conceive,
babies.
you probably
You
ain't
ain't
got
having
nut
no
left in
babies,
you, you know
no
what I'm saying?
right. You ain't producing no
Look at
babies,
your
no
raisin
time
looking
soon.
ass, you know what I'm saying?
Right. So you worried about what's going on out here, people making babies, and your ass can't even have no more.
Say
Come
that.
on now, your wife's
Say
eggs
that.
has been shriveled up since 1940. Just let it go. Just let it go. And I
Okay.
just get frustrated because
I guess this is kind of a side point that Ronnie just said. She said, what about the women who do not believe in God or Christianity? They can make decisions regarding on what holidays they will participate in, but can't make a decision about their bodies and their lives.
well,
those
here's
people
my
are
thing,
lost
and so
in
I'm
thought.
just gonna say, okay,
They're
so
lost.
here's my
This is
thing too.
separation of church and state.
Yeah, that right there. That
Yeah.
ends that.
That's the end of
That's
that.
the end of that.
Yeah.
It's a separation of church and state. Whatever your religious belief is, you practice that shit at home.
Yeah.
The state don't have to recognize that shit.
Right.
You know what I'm
Or
saying?
regulate it.
Or
Right.
regulate it.
Yeah.
They
Right.
can't
They have
regulate
no
it.
right to
The
regulate it.
First Amendment
Right.
says you have a right to the freedom of religion.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So the Constitution can't do shit
It's-
with
it's-
your
it's
freedom
after that,
of
yeah.
whatever the fuck it is you believe.
Yeah.
Believe what you believe.
Yeah.
Follow that. Whatever
Yeah.
they say you can and can't do, because a lot of religions are about control. Do that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Do that.
So the first rule of the Constitution is the Bible is before you. Whatever Bible you believe is before
Believe
the
that.
Constitution.
It's before the
It
Constitution.
trumps the Constitution.
Yeah.
And that is how women feel about their body.
Did you see that comment where she
So
said?
so my thing is, I don't think that people are really getting it or understanding that you do know that if it's illegal in Michigan and legal in Ohio, you can drive
Still
to
go to
Ohio
Ohio and
and
do
get
it.
you an
Yes,
abortion,
but
right?
But yes, you can. But what they're suggesting is, if you travel, especially from those red states that have outlawed it, what they're suggesting is, if you travel from that state to another state
Mm-hmm.
and get an abortion, there's still a legal penalty. But I'm trying to figure out how you
How
gonna,
you
how
gonna
you gonna
know?
track
It's
what the fuck
HIPAA.
I'm doing.
Right, it's
You know what I'm saying?
HIPAA.
I want to go visit my family,
what's
nigga.
gonna
Like,
happen is,
I'm going to visit my
D-Mac,
family in Ohio. It just so
Yeah.
happened to be legal there. I was there and decided I wanted it, and that was legal. Nigga.
Yeah,
Right.
What you
yeah.
gonna
So
do?
D-Mac,
Oh,
what's
God.
gonna happen
Yeah.
is because in Ohio it was illegal.
Uh-huh.
I knew two people personally, maybe 10, 11 years ago, who drove here to get it done.
So
Because
when
it
did
was
they?
illegal
When
in
did,
Ohio.
when was it illegal? When was it illegal in Ohio? Because
I'm not-
I know back in the
Well, I know
90s
they
somebody
drove here.
to Ohio and got it done because they
Did they
didn't
get
want
it
us
done
to
by
know.
a reputable legal
Yeah.
doctor legally,
Yes,
or
their
did they
parent,
go
their
underground with it?
Right.
No, their
Because
parents
you can go to
took them.
Bermuda or Brazil and get some
And get
shit.
some shit.
Right.
understand?
Black market.
Right.
That don't mean just because you
So-
went there that shit was legit.
Well, when they
Right.
drove here,
Right.
they couldn't get it. They couldn't get it done in Ohio because of their age, I believe.
Oh,
That's the
You
part.
had to be a
Or,
certain
or,
age in order to get it done.
or they had it to where you couldn't get it after a certain number of weeks.
Right.
And then how crazy is
Exactly.
And
that
there
Right.
were some
Well, they
underground
both-
doctors
they
that
both-
still were doing it
Yeah,
for the
they
high,
both
for
were
the low,
they
for the
both
high
were
record.
early on.
Yeah.
They both were early on,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think they were at the age of yes.
That's
Yeah,
They
the
weren't
they
at the
probably was
age that they
13 or
said
14,
yes.
got pregnant,
Nah.
mama done took them across the
No,
state
no,
line.
no, no, no. They
16,
was
But I still don't understand.
they was 18 and 19.
Oh,
It was
what you
18
mean
and
they wasn't
19.
of age?
I still don't
Yeah,
understand how they
I
don't
think it
regulate.
was like 21 or
if you go out of
something like
state.
that. I don't think. Yeah, I think it was like 21. But the thing is, what's gonna start happening is now you're gonna have all these clinics up under investigation, and they're
She
gonna
said,
start pulling. they're gonna start pulling records to see who ID was collected, who ID wasn't collected, what state did this person come from, what state this person come from, and that's why doctors are gonna start collecting money under the table because now I got to drive from this state to do it. It's gonna cost you an extra $500. That's where it's gonna start coming in at.
So there was a girl, Ronnie Simmons. She said Roe v. Wade was not overturned to protect unborn children. It was overturned because 60% of abortions are by white women, and their protection or their population numbers are decreasing. I just had this conversation with a client. I just had this conversation with a client. I'm like, bro,
I literally just
make
told
America
Elaine
great
that.
again is to make America
White again.
pure white.
I just seen on the one of our podcasts we had here on Saturday morning, the Hidden Hand podcast. He had a video of one of the senators,
The
from
congresswoman
who
who
said
said
that this is a great victory for
the white
life.
America.
For
Did you
Right,
hear
white
what?
life.
Yeah, and
Right.
Trump was standing right behind
Yeah,
her.
it was
I
a
saw that
Trump
bullshit.
rally. It was a Trump rally.
I
She
saw
said,
that
you
bullshit.
know, I'm proud
so
to have
there-
you endorse me. And, you know, today's victory in Supreme Court
Yeah.
support was a great victory
Yeah.
For white life. Right.
Yeah, and that's
And I-
exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's why I say it's a Republican agenda.
Yeah.
It
So then
has
when you-
nothing to do with the life of the child.
And when you couple
it
that-
has to do with preservation of a race.
Yep. So when you couple that with the fact that they, you know, that Boston shooting, right? We know that those was majority black people that were shot. Not only that, that was the dude who held the patent pending for the cars that ran off water. I don't know if a lot of people knew that. He got killed there. Right. And then it's coming out that it is alleged that school shooting in Texas, where it was a majority Latino and brown kids, right? It is alleged that some of the students have come out and say that some of the cops were the ones actually shooting the students by mistake, right? That's the reason why they alleged that it was 72 minutes before they was able to get there, talking about they was waiting for the guns and the shields, but they got video of them 23 minutes after the call was made standing inside of the school with the guns and the shields.
Outside the room.
Outside the room, right? So then on top of that, they are not releasing the body cam footage from the cops that was in there, right? They're not letting anybody in there to investigate the school, and they are talking about demolishing the school, like, quickly. To cover up all of it.
Of course they are.
You know what I want to say, guys?
So all that to say is to say that there's an agenda against our life, and there's an agenda for their lives, and that would just.
To be very frank, we
let me
the
say
ones
this.
bringing kids into the motherfucking world trying to get tax breaks and trying
Yeah,
to get.
and they don't care about our
So,
kids.
and so that's the problem, though. That's
They
the
don't care about
problem.
our kids. But let me say
But
this.
every life
Let me say
matters.
this.
Right, right.
me
Every
say,
life,
most
absolutely,
white
because
people-
Regardless
everything
as
is
to the
purposeful.
intention of the mother, right?
Every life is
Regardless
purposeful.
as the intention of the
Every
mother.
life is
I understand.
purposeful. Every
I
life,
believe-
everything,
Now listen,
everything in this
DL.
world, everything that's going on. This is a big
Everything
move.
has a
Everything has a purpose. We can say, we don't want murderers. They're here for a reason. We don't want mental. It's here. We have it for a reason. All of these things are not brought on to life because we're manufacturing it. Right?
I get
These
it.
things happen for a reason. Because if we didn't have these things, then the world wouldn't go around. Right?
Light wouldn't exist without
Life
darkness.
wouldn't exist.
So,
Light
Say
wouldn't
that shit. Wait a
exist
minute.
without
Darkness.
darkness. Period.
Wait a minute,
That's a whole
real
scripture.
quick.
Period.
So how we say that they're going to be targeting in vitro, next.
Yeah, they
I'm
are.
gonna say this.
They're gonna
But
try.
listen, most people who get in vitro are white, and I'm gonna say why. First of all, it was unaffordable to a lot of us. It was unaffordable at one point to a lot of us black people or a same-sex couple people. That didn't become a big thing until same-sex marriage became legal. Most white women had to get it done because they couldn't produce or they couldn't get pregnant on their own. So they're not going to get rid of that. You know why? Because these white people can afford to do it. So they're going to do
Well,
it
the
because they
gay
say, you know
people
what?
ain't gonna let them overturn marriage either. I
We don't know what.
It's not.
I don't see it happening.
No.
I don't see it happening. They're going to try,
He-
but I don't
he's
see
going
it
hard,
happening.
baby.
He's suggesting it. He's suggesting
Hard
it
in the
just
paint.
He
because
suggested it. He suggested it. He did.
because the same logic they use to legalize abortion
Right.
is the same logic
Logic.
they use to legalize gay marriage,
Right.
legalize contraception,
Right.
legalize whatever the third
Right.
thing was that he wants to overturn. So he said, if
private
all of
sexual-
these things were based on that logic, and we determined that that logic was erroneous. Now we have to go look at all the other cases that were affected by that logic. Now, he's not getting widespread support, not even from his own red counterparts.
The young lady Ronnie says, I brought the topic up because on another podcast, the majority of the pro-lifers were using their belief in God and the Bible to support their argument.
What do you believe? What are you using to support your argument?
I'm not religious at all. I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. So I don't have a religious to stand on. I don't have a religion to stand
To
on.
base to
Right.
back that up with.
That's just your
That's
belief.
more so
That's
like
just
your
my
own.
belief.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
feel
my belief.
I feel it.
Right. So, yeah.
Final thought, DL, what's up?
Well, my final thought is, and this I know
I know.
for my pro-choicers,
I ain't even pro-choice.
I just feel like wrap it up. You know what I'm saying? If you don't wanna, bring life, or if you don't want to bring life into the world, do the things that it takes to not bring life into the world. I know that it's a difficult thing to hear someone say, regardless to what, life is to be brought up upon us or whatever. But I just believe that. I believe that every life has a purpose. And once you conceive, if you're not miscarrying, if it's not stillborn, I believe that life has a purpose, just like everything else. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm pro-life, no exceptions.
And I know I sound like a hypocrite because I have a child that I've been raising for 13 years as a result of a situation that should have been or would have been under normal circumstances aborted, right? Mm-hmm. I love my kid. I'm so glad they didn't. I'm so glad it was too late. But at the same time, I am very aware of the mental damage that is done just by the virtue of either being raped or being molested. And had I ever, under any of those circumstances, been impregnated, I can't imagine having had to deal with that for 30 days, for 9 months, and then give birth, throw it into a system that is defunct. How I couldn't live with that. I'm not pro-choice because I don't believe in abortion as just some old random shit you do just so because you lay down with a nigga and didn't protect yourself. I'm not for that.
Right.
I am for life. I believe every life has a purpose as well because shit, like I didn't realize my purpose in life until I got my son. Right?
Right.
His life, his purpose gave me purpose.
Right.
I get it. I absolutely get it. But I also have to, as a psychology major, I have to consider the mental health of the individual and how the daily trauma on top of the trauma. And
Right.
then the trauma on top of that trauma for giving birth, and then the trauma on top of that trauma
Right.
to give it away.
Right.
It's just a lot. And I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I am pro-life with exception.
And on that note, we are ending Equally Not this Monday. Check us out next week. Same time, same
Same
place.
place.
I'm DL Collins,
I'm D-Mag.
and we out of here.
Peace.